You got Mac and Mac here on Birds 365. We've got Tommy Lawlor from EagleBlitz.com, longtime Eagle beat guy, joining us here on Birds 365. Tommy, be thankful you're down there in Carolina. You don't have to deal with the mess that is I-95 up here in Philadelphia. It's going to be giving us issues for the next several months. But the Eagles got some downtime, so we're just looking for stories to tell. I saw you put one up about Christian Ellis, everybody jumping on the Christian Ellis bandwagon because he made a couple of plays in workouts. I'm not even going to call them practices. Is this the newest Eagle find? Star undrafted free agent who comes in and makes a major contribution to the Eagle defense.
I don't know if we want to go that far quite yet, but he's trending in the right direction, you know? And that's what you when you see these practices. Obviously, it's organized team activities. They don't call them practices, right? And what you want to see is the guy take advantage of the situations that are there. They can't hit, they can't tackle, they're not blitzing. So show us what you can do in pass coverage. And as we know, the game has changed, and pass coverage is critical for linebackers in today's NFL. So the fact that he picked off a couple of passes, look good in coverage, that's an encouraging sign. And the fact that he played well last year when he got on the field was obviously an impact player for special teams. They got markedly better once he was elevated and made a part of the special teams. He's trending in the right direction, certainly win a roster spot and to push for a role on this team. So he's doing well, but it is funny, you know, there's just not a lot of compelling stories right now for the Eagles, so we're desperate for something to talk about. So all of a sudden Christian Ellis becomes the guy instead of how many stories can you write about Jalen Hurts or A.J. Brown with nothing new to say?
Yeah, especially the way it is. You're right. I mean, Tommy, I've been covering this league for too long, and I go way back, and I still remember there was a player who became an all CFL player by the name of Kyrese Abear. When I covered
what? Where?
Yes, exactly. When I covered the Minnesota Vikings, he to this day had the best offseason I've ever seen. And the offseason was a longer period back then, but still limited from a context standpoint, a pad standpoint. He would make a big play every day in the spring. And we were like, wow, this guy's, you know, Ronnie Lott basically. And, you know, then the pads came on, nothing. Down to the second team, down to the third team, eventually cut. And as I said, to his credit, went up north and became a heck of a player in that particular league, but not what you're looking for. For Eagles fans, more recently, I go to Donnell Pumphrey. You probably remember, Tommy. They unveiled this 21 pony formation in the spring with him and Darren Sproles on the field at the same time. It looked unstoppable. Unstoppable. You had these two diminutive running backs, so quick in T-shirts, and then the pads come on. Ain't going to work. Oh, we got to block somebody. And it just quickly evaporates.
Well, the greatest OTA player of all time. Do you guys not remember Lorenzo Booker?
Lorenzo Booker, sure.
It was spring of 2007 or 2008. The Eagles had traded for him from the Dolphins, put him out there in the OTAs. Nobody could cover him. He was a scat back. Yeah. So quick, so athletic. Nobody could cover him. We thought, oh, Westbrook is going to lose some touches to this guy. He's going to be a playmaker. Andy's going to use him. He's going to change the offense. And the guy did squat. I don't know if he had 100 total yards as an Eagle in games. Yeah. But in the OTAs, he was electric. Everybody. This wasn't like just, you know, Dave Spadaro writing positive stuff about it. Everybody raved about this guy. Everybody absolutely loved this guy. And so to me, the Lorenzo Booker is the legend of OTAs.
Yeah, and my overriding point is buyer beware on this kind of stuff. But I agree with your point. You can only do what you can do in the offseason. I think it's a very positive development that Christian Ellis showed up in this environment and played as well as he did. So how do you kind of figure it out? I mean, there's a need at that position.
Sure.
He's got an opportunity. But buyer beware.
I think what we have to remind ourselves here is kind of what Jim Schwartz talked about a few years ago when he told his story about Jim Palmer in the spring training.
A bunch of stories about
and he talked about Jim Palmer just had an awful spring training, got lit up. And turned out that Jim Palmer, somebody asked Jim, are you concerned? He goes, no, because all I've thrown this entire summer or this entire spring is curveballs. So hitters know what's coming, but I'm working on my curveball, and I don't care what the results are now. I'm getting ready for April, May, and June. And so he wasn't worried about results. He was focusing on technique. And so sometimes we can watch where one player might be trying to focus on a little part of his technique and another player is going all out to win every play. One guy's trying to learn, one guy's trying to win. And so sometimes we focus on the guy who wins because that guy's going all out, full speed. He's not interested in learning and developing his game. The other player's trying to get ready for the season. And so we kind of have two different goals there. One guy's trying to adjust and one guy's trying to play as if this is a regular season game. And so you can get some false positives from the guy who's going all out, doing whatever it takes to succeed on the plate, and the other guy's trying to work on his technique.
Thank you both for making my point for me and throwing out guys who have really lit things up in OTAs. And then the season started and you forgot their name pretty damn quickly. I'm not knocking or mocking Christian Ellis, and I'm glad he had a couple of nice activity sessions with them. Yeah, I'm predicting he's not as some people get overly excited and overly crazed about what a guy does. 7-7 in shorts. I'll wait to judge Christian Ellis until we get to actual joint practices, which are the key offseason activities for the Eagles.
That's different than you drinking a 7-7 while wearing shorts. We got to be sure that these different things.
Yeah,
we got a night for that coming up. The longest day of the year. That's a Jody McDonald tradition. Not 7-7s. You got to drink gin. I was taught by a friend of mine, ex-NFL player, as a matter of fact. Didn't ever play in the regular season, but was in the Packers camp one year. A guy by the name of Adrian Carson that I work with at ESPN said everybody drinks gin on the longest day of the year, which is June 21st, which is coming up in about 10 days from now. So yeah,
that's the first time I heard that, but I'll take his advice.
Yeah, exactly.
Got to drink June on the longest day of the year. Adrian Carson told me that, and he threatened me that if I didn't drink gin with him, he would. And he was an offensive lineman too, so I was going to drink gin with my buddy.
Oh yeah, right
on that day. Yeah. So Christian Ellis looked good. Did we find out anything else from the Eagles OTAs this offseason, Tommy? They did less than any other team in the National Football League. I'm poo-pooing what Christian Ellis did, but yet I'm asking you, did we learn anything else? Or did we just throw it all out? Doesn't matter. Wait till camp opens up. Everything else that happens before that is irrelevant.
Oh, everything matters. Everything they did absolutely matters. Kind of the difference here is that the coaches know what they're looking for. The three of us and everybody else who watches them or studies them, we don't know exactly what the coaches are looking for because the coaches are the ones in the classrooms talking to them and saying, here's what I want to see today. We just go out and watch football or see clips of football, and we judge it based on what we know of football. And listen, I've followed Eagles for a long time. I've watched preseason football for a long time. I followed the OTAs. I still don't understand spring football very well because it's just like we talked about. One guy's going all out and the other guy's working on a technique. How do you know who's doing what? And that makes it so complicated. But we didn't learn anything definitive. The roles were pretty clearly defined on this team. I thought it was encouraging that Terrell Edmonds seemed to play well from what I've heard. And the Eagles, obviously, they have a bunch of bodies at safety. We're kind of looking for some guys to step up and kind of cement their spots. And so it looks like he and Reed Blankenship will be the starters there for now. Sidney Brown is the rookie who's we'll see how he does. This was his first, NFL activities. And I think he'll really come alive when they're allowed to hit in training camp because Sidney's such a physical player. I think that'll bring out a side of him. But, yeah, there wasn't a whole lot going on, that we learned a lot. Jalen Hurts, still a talented quarterback. A.J. Brown, still a talented receiver, and so on and so forth. There wasn't much to take from it, but the coaches certainly got something.
Yeah, I looked at a couple things, Tommy, and I thought they were interesting is how I would describe it. And I brought this up with Jody last week, and I want to run it by you because I think it's going to be relevant in the summer when they get to camp. As we all know, they have these veteran maintenance days for certain players. Jason Kelsey, obviously a part of that list, and deservedly so. the second OTA open to us reporters, Jason didn't participate in. And I was interested from the standpoint of, all right, are you going to move Cam Jurgens back to center with the first team and have Tyler Steen or Jack Driscoll take the right guard reps? Or does Cam Jurgens need those right guard reps? So I thought it was interesting from that standpoint. The answer is they moved Cam back to center. Now, they only do individual work. It's 7-on-7s. They don't do any teamwork. But they moved him back to center, and Tyler Steen was first team at right guard. I thought it was interesting, but I don't know why. Does that mean they're so confident in Cam Jurgens, they're okay with toggling him back and forth? Or does it mean this is a real competition and we want to get Tyler Steen first team reps like back when it was Mailata versus Andre Dillard? Maybe you can do it during those maintenance days instead of just going back and forth. If you had to guess, which camp would you be in? They're so confident in Cam Jurgens, or it's a real competition?
I think it's a little bit of both, with a third thing thrown in is the Eagles really value versatility up front. And so they need it. Listen, Jason Kelce's been a workhorse. The last time he had a serious injury was 2012, right? But we knock on wood, right? If he goes out, they need Cam Jurgens to be ready to play center. Not just that he's played it in the past and he can learn it again. They need him to be ready to play it. So you want him to get some reps at center. And then you obviously want to give Tyler Steen a shot with the first teamers because you want to see what he looks like with the ones. Even if it's just lining up, how quick does he come off the ball? What does he look like? And you want to get those looks. And I think that they wouldn't do this if they thought that Cam Jurgens was desperate for reps at right guard. So they obviously, like I say, to me, it's a little bit of both, that they're confident enough in him they can move him back and forth, but they definitely want him ready at center and guard. And they want the best five guys on the field, but then they want backups ready at those spots too. Because, listen, if you follow the Eagles, you go back to 2020, offensive line injuries just ruined that season. So you want guys ready to play multiple positions.
I think the Eagles tipped their hand when they did what they did with Dickerson a couple of years ago. Here's a guy who was a second-round pick, not a first. Probably would have been a first if not for injury, but he was a second-round pick, and Steen's a third-round pick. They threw him into the deep end of the pool and said, we're starting you from day one at a new position, and I don't think they'd be afraid to do it with Steen. To answer Johnny Mac's question, I think it's going to be a competition and made the best man win, and I would say starting right guard is a more important decision than backup center to Jason Kelce, because as Tommy correctly points out, Jason never gets hurt. So as soon as I say that, he's now going to miss 8 games with a high ankle sprain. But I think it's going to be a fun competition at the right guard spot. Even losing out with their starter at the right guard position, Eagles still got the best offensive line in the NFL, Tommy?
I think so, because they have the best right tackle, the best center, and one of the best left guards. Those are 3 positions where they're near the top of the league. And then obviously Jordan Mailata is an above average left tackle. So it's not just that they have 5 starters, 5 talented players. They have guys that are dominant in their positions. And that's so rare in today's NFL. Normally, like people would talk about, the Niners have a good offensive line. And you looked at it and, they had a couple of guys that were above average players, and everybody else was just an experienced player, a veteran player as part of their group. Most teams only have 1 or 2 guys to build around, and they don't have, like, Jason Kelce and Lane Johnson both are legitimate Hall of Fame candidates, right? That's a rarity in the NFL to have guys like that playing together for that long. So to me, this is still the best offensive line in football.
It's tough to say. Tough to say it isn't, even losing Isaac Seumalo, and that tells you how good they were, because Isaac's a very good player. The 33rd team, our buddies over there, P. Damo and Mike Tannenbaum, Joe Banner, they did a little thing. They put the top 20 remaining free agents. I had a little fun with fans. I put yes 20 times. And some took it seriously, by the way, which is kind of sad. Also, I did not ask the question about DeAndre Hopkins because it's silly. And I don't ask silly questions at press conference. That's for fans, not you guys. Anyway, there are a couple guys on this top 20 list. And basically, I'll run through it real quick. DeAndre Hopkins, 1, Dalvin Cook, 2, Ben Jones, 3, Marcus Peters, 4, Dalton Risner, 5, Yannick Ngakoue, 6, John Johnson, 7, Taylor Lewan, Adrian Amos, Eli Apple, Melvin Ingram, Jadeveon Clowney, Ezekiel Elliott, Casey Hayward, Kyle Van Noy, Justin Houston, Matt Ioannidis, George Fant, Rashaan Evans, Teddy Bridgewater. A lot of big names there. A lot of big name trap. Everybody knows these particular names. I ran through it pretty quickly. Any interest, anybody on that list, to me, would have to be safeties. The safeties, John Johnson, Adrian Amos. Anything pique your interest?
Not really. I agree with you, John Johnson. Adrian Amos really wouldn't. I don't know that he's a great fit for this system, and I don't know that he'd be a major upgrade on the guys they have. John Johnson has played in a similar version of this system and has played at a high level, so he would be interesting for sure. Linebacker is the other spot where obviously the Eagles could look to potentially upgrade. I don't know. Rashaan Evans might have been the only off-ball linebacker you mentioned.
Yes.
The rest of the positions are places where the Eagles have players, and really we need to see the guys that are in these positions, because as we've talked about, when you have Jalen Hurts making mega money, AJ Brown makes mega money, Hassan Reddick's not exactly cheap, and all on down the line, Lane Johnson makes a boatload of money. You've got to have cheap solutions, and especially you want young cheap solutions so they'll be there for 2, 3, 4 years. You start signing 1-year guys every year, and it just becomes a turnstile. So that's where there's real value in seeing, can Reed Blankenship develop? Can Christian Ellis develop? And guys of that nature. And you want those guys, if you can get 2 or 3 years of play from them at a minimum level or a low level, that makes things that much easier for you to go make free agent moves and have a better cap situation.
In a word, John, the answer to your question is no. You put down 20 yeses on Twitter. I would have put down 20 no's.
Wow, I really put that. My yes was a no, Jody. Yeah, I hope you know me. Well enough by now.
It did take me a second. I sat there and looked at it. I said, let me reread this tweet again. And then I went through and I said, okay, I got you. But for a minute, I thought, oh, boy, he's starting to lose it. And then I thought, no, I got
you. Had you put one maybe in there, you would have tipped your hand at, oh, okay, this is him being cynical. Yeah, I know to every single guy on that roster, and it doesn't mean that the Eagles roster is set, but there's just no positional need for any of those players that are on that list. So, Howie can keep mining the mines to see if something's there, but there isn't in the free agency as far as I'm concerned. But we did get some talk about it, and John just said somebody questioned him asking a question about DeAndre Hopkins. We know that chances are DeAndre Hopkins isn't going to land here. Where do you think DeAndre is going to land? If he's not coming here at Philadelphia, which we all agree is highly unlikely, where do you think he's going to land, Tommy?
If I had to guess, I'd go Patriots. They're talking to him. If he might, I think he might have been in Nashville yesterday.
Yeah, he's in Nashville right now meeting with the Titans. So maybe they don't let him out of the building, so to speak.
They could certainly use him, right? And the Patriots need him. And we know Bill Belichick's a big fan of his, and that makes a huge difference. And obviously, the Patriots are trying to figure out if Mac Jones can play or not. And they found out he couldn't play with Matt Patricia as his offensive coordinator. Well, they fixed that. They hired Bill O'Brien to run the offense. And he just needs better weapons. They've done a little bit of work this offseason to improve the receiving core. They still don't have anybody that scares defenses. And Hopkins would give them a guy that defenses would have to pay attention to, and that would open up that offense a little bit and help them. Listen, if Mac Jones isn't the answer, that's fine. But they need to figure that out so they can proceed accordingly and decide if they need to go find another quarterback. Right now, they just don't know what they've got in Mac Jones. Is he just a young guy that could develop, or is he a guy that has peaked already and heading into year 3?
You can tell it's the off season with these questions, Tommy. So I'm going to go to the ESPN Football Power Index. Now, Jody and I had a lot of fun with the ESPN FPI last year. No matter what the Eagles do, they couldn't get ahead of Dallas. They couldn't get ahead of, no matter what they did, even when they beat Dallas, they couldn't get ahead of Dallas. So we ripped it quite a bit, and I think deservedly so. Yeah. But now they've come out with Super Bowl 58 chances. And number one on that list,
Dallas Cowboys,
0.9%, Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, wow.
Now can we rip the ESPN Football Power Index? The Cowboys are way down at number 6, by the way.
No.
At 6.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
There's
Jody's Jets are number 8 at 3.9%. Number 2 is the reigning champions, the Chiefs. Number 3 is the 49ers. 4 is the Bills. 5 is the Bengals. Now, I think the reason the Eagles are on top, you look, the AFC's tougher. Doesn't, so you're either going to go 49ers, Eagles. So it makes sense to me. Now it's great. Did we go down that route or say, all right, let's pump the brakes?
Oh, listen, these things, who knows what goes into all these formulas. The Eagles, I think you give them the advantage coming out of the NFC just because they have the best roster and a veteran quarterback. And the Niners have a good roster, but their quarterback situation is kind of up in the air.
Be careful. Right, Jody's going to rip you. Jody's going to rip you.
Well, keep going. If you give Brock Purdy his just due and just say it's questionable because we don't know if Purdy's going to be there, then I'm not going to rip you. If you're going to tell me Brock Purdy's
not healthy. He's not healthy.
Right. It's all about his health, not the quality of play he had last year. He didn't go 2-0. He didn't go 6-0. He went 8-0 and put up good stats in every single game that he played. And I don't care now that he's Mr. Irrelevant. People cling to this, where you're drafted years down the road. Yeah, but he was 7th round draft. Who cares when you've got time logged in the NFL? I much would rather judge someone by what they've actually done on the NFL field than where they were drafted. And I think too many people are holding Brock Purdy's draft status against him after the half a season he had last
year. Yeah, well, listen, he got so hot and played so well that you just feel like it seemed more like an anomaly than something that's going to be sustainable. We'll see, right? Defenses will adjust to them, coaches will adjust to him, and we'll see, because we've all seen players get hot for a few games, sustaining it over a full season.
Eight's not a few, Tommy.
That's still not a full season, and we've
seen guys. You said a few.
Okay.
He played 8. He was 8-0 before he hurt his elbow in the Eagles game.
Go back.
Few for me means 2 or 3. 8 means a half a season.
Go back to 2007. Derek Anderson had a Pro Bowl year for the Cleveland Browns. The only good year he ever had in the NFL, and he was in the NFL for years. You see guys every now and then, things just click for them. And listen, if he turns out to be a great player, so be it. I'll be the first one to say it. But I'm just saying, until it's proven over a couple of years, there's always going to be a little hesitation. Heck, I mean,
can I ask you a question about that, Tommy? Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Jalen Hurts has only had one superior year. Are we questioning him?
No, it's fair to. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So I like the fact that you have your standard. Give me 2 or 3 years under your belt, then I'll evaluate you as a superstar. But if it's short that, you're going to go, all right, yeah, he's still got a lot to prove.
Listen, if you're scouting football players, scouting in its own way should be like science. You go based on evidence. Okay. The evidence would tell you Brock Purdy just had a terrific rookie season and played at a very high level. Jalen Hurts could have easily been the MVP of the NFL last year. Both guys had great years. So let's see what they do in 2023. And if they both play at a high level, it's when you get to like Tom Brady played well for, we'll go back to the early days.
Decades.
8 years. And you said, okay, that's just a fact. He's that level of player. But for a year, half a year, year and a half, you're just sitting there trying to see. Because we've seen Dante Culpepper got off to a terrific start with his NFL career. And an injury set in and he faded away. So I've seen so many guys that looked like they were going to be special players, this, that, the other. and they just couldn't sustain it. Sometimes it's not their fault. Sometimes it is injuries. Sometimes it's bad coaching, bad luck. Who knows? Heck, I mean, you go back to 2012, Robert Griffin, RG3. He looked like he was going to change
he had a
the
great
sport of
season.
football, right?
Yeah.
Phenomenal season. And through the Shanahans forcing him back onto the field hurt, and then through Dan Snyder's ownership, his situation just deteriorated very quickly. And Washington went from having a sport-altering quarterback to a guy that was gone in a couple of years and sucking in Cleveland. And so that's why
I'm glad you brought that one up. That's one of the greatest what ifs in the NFL. I mean, he was phenomenal as a rookie, for people that forget. Basically carried off on his shield in the playoffs. He had Washington in the playoffs, and he was changing the game, and he just wasn't the same physically. I remember he not only tore his ACL, he tore everything. He tore the LCL, the PCL. So it was a catastrophic knee injury. And I remember when Carson tore his ACL, he also tore his LCL. And I was concerned because of what happened to RG3. I was like, that's a serious injury. That's more serious than just a typical ACL injury. And Carson was able to make it back and play at certainly an acceptable level, but he was never the same player. No,
RG3, one of the situations with him is that he and Dan Snyder spent the offseason kind of palling around, so he's going through rehab, and he and Dan Snyder were going to movie premieres and doing oddball things. And then RG3 got with his marketing team and did some kind of promotional thing with Subway to sell T-shirts that had to do with him making a comeback. So that's why I say the circumstances. He didn't have a coach who said, focus on getting better. He's worried about marketing himself. He and the owner are going to movie premieres and doing Hollywood stuff. And the focus wasn't on getting better and playing football. And so he was a very distracted young man. And, when you're coming off an injury, especially like you say, a horrible injury like he had, you got to have laser focus. He did not have laser focus. And I don't think he got physically right for a while. And then by the time he did, Washington was such a mess that he was gone from there. And like I say, went to Cleveland, and the Eagles played him against him in Cleveland once. That might have been Carson's debut in 2016. I can't remember. And he was just not a good player. It was over for him by then.
Yeah. It is certainly speculation season. And John, if you still have that ESPN power ranking available, I want to ask you about an individual team, because that's what we're doing at this time of year, nitpicking what other people are saying about other things. At home, I say Christian Ellis grabbed a couple of passes in 7-on-7 drills, and now he's starting linebacker for the Eagles. Yeah, I got to wait and see that. Where did ESPN have the Detroit Lions? Because I'm getting a lot of buzz that the Lions are going to be a team. And don't be surprised if they're the third best team in the NFC behind the Eagles and the 49ers. Where did ESPN have?
Number 7. So if you go with the ESPN Football Power Index, and this makes me rethink my own position, because they have the exact same top 4 I do in the exact same position. Eagles, 49ers, Cowboys, Lions, which would be where I would have the top 4. So I got to rethink
that. Tommy, I think the Lions are getting a little off-season overrated. They had a nice season above 500 last year. And, I give them a lot of props for winning that last game of the season. They had been eliminated. They go into the last week, can make the playoffs. Seattle wins earlier. Now they know they can't make the playoffs, and they stick it to Green Bay just the same, who still had the chance to make the playoffs. So I give them their props for that final win, but they were 9-8 in a lesser NFC. I think people are going a little overboard on the Lions. How about you?
A little bit, yeah, I agree. I think they're the kind of the flavor of the month. I feel like they finished the season 6-2 or something like that. I don't have the numbers memorized for them.
They were very good down the stretch. Yeah,
they obviously lost the Eagles 38-35. They could have won that game. There was a couple of other games they lost that were close. They could have won them. So they went 9-8, but they might have gone 12-5.
By the way, I know I've told Jody this. I don't know if I told you this, Tommy. Dallas Goedert told me his exact quote. I don't care what anybody says. The Lions are the best team we played this season, and this was this was late in the season, so it wasn't after the Super Bowl, but it was late in the season, and it was unprompted. Like it wasn't, taught for it. It was unprompted. So I put a little bit more meaning behind it. Like they're a good team.
One of the things that was so frustrating in that game is the Eagles kept building the lead, 14 points, 17 points. Yeah. And you keep thinking, okay, you've knocked them down on the mat. They're going to stay down. And the Lions, being the jerks they are, kept getting up and scoring a touchdown. And they wouldn't quit. And it was, listen, if you're a Monty Python fan, it's like the Black Knight. Come back, it's just a flesh wound. And the Eagles kept scoring, and they kept scoring. And by the end, it cut it 38-35. And I feel like it was a late quarterback sneak that sealed the game. We didn't realize what
it was. Yeah,
that would become, right?
Jalen, the early start. I don't think it was a tush push, though. I think
no. They let him do it on his own. Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And
which is why I advocate. Hey, they should have banned the tush push. It would have helped the Eagles because Jalen's getting it anyway. Other quarterbacks
need help.
May not get it.
Yeah. All right, so let me put you both to the number test. Detroit Lions, the over/under 10.5. This team going to win 11 games this year? Go 11-6?
I think so, and I'll let Tommy. I say yes because, look, Minnesota's, I don't want to say they're tanking, but they're going in a different direction. Green Bay's no Aaron Rodgers going to Jordan Love. They're going to struggle. Chicago's not ready. Somebody's got to win games in that division. I think it's going to be Detroit, and I think it gets them to 11. That's why I would say.
Tommy, under over 10.5.
Just listen, for the sake of entertainment, I'll go under. And listen, John doesn't know anything. He matches the FBI. He takes all his thoughts from the FBI. You can't trust that guy. No, listen, I think they're going to be a good team, and I think they're going to win double-digit games. I would have them probably at 10. But I do think that nobody's going to be caught off guard by Detroit. And some teams are going to – whereas Detroit, you have to go back quite a few years for people to circle that game and say, we want to play the Lions. They're going to get some of that this year. And responding to winning and playing with a bullseye on your back, that's tough. Not every team handles that well. So we'll see if Detroit does. They probably will, but I am curious to see how they do.
The reason why I'm taking the under is too many Lions players will actually go on their phone and bet the over while at the facilities and be suspended because Detroit's had more players suspended than anyone else in the National Football League, including their star second-year wide receiver who's not going to play the first 6 games.
That's right.
I'm going under and bet on it because the Lions will.
Yeah, I'm not sold on Dan Campbell as a head coach either, but somebody's got to win some games in that division. The other 3 teams,
John, I know it's going to be painful for you, but the Bears are going to be much improved.
Campbell's the kind of guy who can motivate players, get them to play tough, play hard, really battle. But history is filled with guys like that who got the team above 500 but couldn't get them to the next level. Yeah. Because at a certain point, you have to have X's and O's answers, and you have to have long-term vision, and those are the kind of things I don't know if he does. The guy's done a terrific job, and he's got that franchise turned around, but I just don't know if he's going to be the guy to get him to go to the next level.
And mark my words, the Lions will not be as good running the football. Jahmyr Gibbs going through soft practices as a first-round draft pick. They're going to miss both Williams and Swift, the 2 running backs they moved away from. And, oh, by the way, very good running back coach, no longer there, now in Carolina, down your neck of the woods, joining the Panthers staff. Sans Deuce, I don't think the Lions will run the ball as well this upcoming year. Tommy, great stuff. We always appreciate it when you come on. Thanks for jumping in to help us get through the downtime that is the Eagles offseason. We will certainly be doing so again in a couple of weeks. Thanks for jumping in today.
I've got to go get some gin to be ready for the long day.
There we go. And I warned you about Brock Purdy. I warned you, Tommy. I warned you.
You did. I didn't listen. I will listen next time, John. I promise.
You got 9 days before the longest day of the year. So I think you get out to the liquor store and get yourself some good gin between now and the 21st.
There right now.
Tommy, good stuff. Thanks, bud.
Thanks, guys.
Tommy Lawlor. EaglesBlitz.com. Check out his website. Tommy puts up Eagles commentary and posts all the time. He's got a pretty damn good grasp of this football team. All right, Johnny Mac coming back. We got more Birds 365, hour number 2 coming your way.